Blue Sky Hypnosis, Friday live at 5. Welcoming you all back after a 2-week hiatus. I was gone for the last 2 weeks, went out of the country to Mexico on a vacation, and glad to be back here. I hope people found me because when I scheduled this live, I did it from Mexico, different time zone, and I messed it up. And so my software wouldn't allow me to change the time, so I had to cancel the old one, release a new one. I sent out a new email, so hopefully people got that email. Hopefully someone will be showing up here and I won't just be talking to the screen by myself, which is always a possibility. Without further ado, today we're going to be talking about past life regression, and the subtitle was Who You Were Before. Who were you before? And there's a number of different points and topics that I'd like to cover on this subject. Before I do, I want to go over the sort of normal disclaimers, and that is I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a medical doctor, and if you have important psychological issues and if you've got important medical issues, by all means, please check with your licensed medical and psychological professional. All of my information, the answers to the questions that I give come largely from my one-on-one practice working with clients over the past 15 years. That's really where I'm coming from. So take everything I say with from that perspective. If you have comments, please feel free to make those comments. It's what makes this alive and distinguishes it from me just talking endlessly. Makes it way more interesting for me, I can tell you. And if you have suggestions for future lives or for content on the channel, please feel free to keep that coming. That certainly helps out a lot. And without further ado, I think what I'd like to do is I want to jump right into a series of questions in this realm on past life regression that that one of the subscribers to the channel posed to me a couple of days ago by email, and I have it sort of prepared here if I can pull it up. So his name is Tim Erickson. And he was asking if there are other kinds of blocks to a past life regression. In other words, a person tries to do past life regression and they're just seeing black, or it's just not working for them. That's what we would call a block. And the most common blocks that I've come across are fear, a person that's afraid of something that's in that past lifetime. Now, that could be something that they're consciously aware of, but most often it's something that they're not consciously aware of, because part of that person, part of their mind, call it the subconscious, knows exactly where they're going to go. And that part of their mind has been trying to prevent them from remembering this incident probably for a very long time. So that could represent a block. And then disbelief. Disbelief is another kind of block. If a person says, well, that's not even possible, then it's like they don't allow it to unfold. He's asking, are there any other blocks besides those two that could prevent a person from going into a past life? And I would say, yes, there are. They're far less common, but nevertheless, they exist. And the first one that came into my mind was if a person had a spiritual entity attached to them. Without going too deep into that concept, but at least to describe it briefly for people who don't know what that is, think of it as a kind of energetic parasite. There's two parts of you. There's two parts of me. There's a spirit and there's a physical body. And the spirit animates or inhabits the physical body, and that's what creates a human being. When your physical body dies, your spirit doesn't die. And a disincarnated spirit can attach itself to a person still in a body, and that would be this spirit attachment phenomenon. If a person has a spiritual entity attached to them, that actually could be a block for that person going into a past life. So Tim, I hope that makes sense to you. That certainly is another block. I guess other blocks could be if a person were on certain kinds of drugs or pharmaceuticals, that might prevent them from having that experience. If they were totally agitated and they just couldn't go into hypnosis, that would be another kind of block that would occur to me. But the sort of the big third one, if you will, that is still subordinate to those first two, would be a spiritual entity attaching to the person who's trying to go into a past life regression. Okay, his second question was, what is a clear indication to tell when you're in a hypnotic state? There are numerous subtle signs that hypnotists are taught to watch for in clients when you're hypnotizing a client. That could be something called an eye flutter. It could be the eyes rolling back up into the head. It can be the flushing of the skin. It can be the face looking like a mask, a hypnotic mask of relaxation. There are certain kinds of, and I don't really use these so much, but there are certain kinds of things that a lot of hypnotists will use called convincers, where if a person can't pull apart their hands because they've been suggested that their hands are a single block of wood, that's a convincer. It convinces the person, oh wow, something really important has happened here. Or if the person can be suggested to forget their name, that would be a convincer. And when a person receives a convincer like that, they tend to go into a deeper state of hypnosis. For purposes of past life regression, and for the work that I do, a really deep level of hypnosis is not actually required. That's my experience with that. In terms of assessing it yourself, it can be things like, and I often call this a sine wave. Like a person is listening to me, they're listening to me, they're aware of what I'm saying, whether it's in person or it's on a recording, and then all of a sudden it's like, I disappear. It's like you feel like you go somewhere else. And it's like, oh, there's his voice. It's come back. And so this kind of sine wave goes up and down like the waves in the ocean of awareness, losing awareness, awareness, losing awareness. That would be something that would be pretty common, that if you were listening to a recording, you might notice that that's occurring. Another one would be an after the fact one, which is, let's say the recording is 45 minutes or an hour. And the recording brings you out of hypnosis at the end, and you feel like it's been 15 minutes, or you feel like it's been 4 hours. A time distortion would be something. It could be that you started with a headache and you ended without one. These are the kinds of things that I would suggest that you might be able to look for. But I also wouldn't get too wrapped up in am I in hypnosis and how deep am I? Because in my opinion and in my experience, it's not actually that important. Okay, and then his last question is, while you're in a PLR, past life regression, how do you know if the other people in that regression are people that you know from your present life? And the answer is probably, it might be kind of unsatisfying for people who have not had this experience. And the answer is, you just know. Now, it could be that that person looks like someone in your present life. But generally speaking, it's like their energy. It's like you just know them instantly. If you walked into a party and it had 100 people in the party and your best friend was there, you would know that was your best friend. No one would have to tell you. If your husband was there, nobody would have to tell you. If your ex-husband was there, you haven't seen him in 20 years, no one would have to tell you. You would know it was your ex-husband, even if he had gained, 40 or 50 pounds and his hair was gone and he grew a beard where he was clean shaven before, you would still know. It's kind of the same thing with past life regression. You just know. And as I say, sometimes it can be the similarity, and then sometimes it's just like the energetic feel. The person just instantly knows. All right, so Tim, I hope that was good, and this is certainly an example for other people. If you want to submit questions to me ahead of time, I'm happy to sift through those and kind of pull out the ones that sound like they might be of benefit to everybody. Let's just see what we need to do to close that out. Okay, cool. All right, now I'm going to see who is here. Tim Erickson, you're here. Fantastic. Good to see you. Glad you showed up. English Rose, shout out to you, as well as Marie Hogan. Hello, Marie. And Marcella Orrick, the Waffle Queen. Awesome. Bob Galgansky. Hello, Peter. Hello to you, Bob. Estelle, hello to you. It's great to see you guys, especially after a 2-week hiatus. Here's Joanna. Why having an attachment is a block? Oh, did not get into why. Thank you. Thank you. I now that you say that, I realized that I didn't go as deep into that as I should have. So I said, if a person has a spiritual attachment, that can prevent them from accessing a past life. But you're correct. Absolutely. I didn't say exactly why that's the case. So I will do that now. So thank you for raising that to my attention. It can be that that spiritual entity who is using your body as its home realizes that if you go into that past lifetime, you're going to start walking down a pathway that's going to lead you to a degree of health and healing that's going to mean that entity is going to be gone. That is that is the most common reason why an entity could prevent you from going into a past life. All right, so definitely thank you for calling that to my attention. Really appreciate that. Joy Shaw, hello to you, as well as Gertrude Hill, cool. Let's see, good to see some new people here. Beth Reinstein, good to see you. Ann Bouchard, hello to you. Tim Erickson, no facial recognition needed. Yeah, absolutely. See anybody else here and any questions? Here's Alexandra. Alexandra says, ever since I was little, living in New York City, and still today, I've resonated with everything Egyptian. Is it possible I lived there in a past life? Yes, absolutely. I think that is one of the possible signs. I don't think it's a guaranteed sign, but a certain kind of an affinity for a particular culture, a particular time frame, or a particular region. Absolutely. And when I've worked with people over the last 15 years who've come to me and they've talked about those kinds of affinities, oftentimes, not always, oftentimes, they have absolutely lived a past lifetime in that realm, whatever realm that we're talking about. And this certainly could be the case for you. So yeah, the answer is a definite yes. All righty. Here's Anne Bouchard, and she's saying, I found out about past lives through a medium and in my dreams. Yeah, that's a really interesting point, that my principal tool is hypnosis. That's how I was trained, and that's how I've practiced throughout my career. But it's not the only way, and I think maybe I even talked about this. How do I access my past lifetimes? Was one of the little bullet points. Hypnosis would be one of the ways. It represents, think of it as a doorway. You open the door and now you're traveling into this area that we call past lifetimes. Another one would be, yes, in your dreams, because your conscious mind is out of the way. You can't step in the way and say, this isn't happening, this isn't real, blah, 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 blah. I'm making it up. So you could travel there in your dreams. You could also travel there in what we call meditation, because the brainwave state of meditation and hypnosis is the same. Another way could be if you have a fever. The fever can create a kind of altered or shifting of your consciousness and could allow you to have that experience. I have noticed in my life when I've been very ill with a fever, and it's only been a few times, that I've had this urge to write poetry, and I do. And other times, never was there. Because something is going on in my consciousness that is normally suppressed. Another way would be drugs. And I'm not advocating, I'm not saying not to, but hallucinogenic drugs for sure would probably help people get to that state. So yeah, there are absolutely different ways of doing that. I'm not a medium, I'm not a psychic, but I understand that mediums and psychics can tap into the past lifetimes of other people. So these are all different ways, and it was a perfect segue in order to talk about the different ways of accessing past lifetimes. So thank you for that. All right, let's see what else we have here. Lots of people, which is awesome. Love it when it's like this. Here is Altara. Love your name, Altara Wilson. I'm desperate for a 10-hour sleep hypnosis for fibromyalgia, chronic pain, with a talk down and rain. Okay, that's a really, with a talk down and rain. Okay, so you're talking about you want to hear a guided induction into hypnosis, set to rain, that deals with chronic fibromyalgia, and you'd like it to be 10 hours. Cool. So right now on my YouTube channel, which is Blue Sky Hypnosis, and if anyone out there hasn't subscribed to the channel yet, I hope you'll consider doing so. On Blue Sky Hypnosis on my channel, there's an 8-hour that I believe is set to rain for chronic pain. I know it's not the 10-hour, but I think if you check that one out, that may get you started. And I will definitely consider making a 10-hour one like you suggest here, but I do think that 8-hour one will help you immediately, and it already exists on the channel. So good luck to you, and let me know if it does help, and give me some feedback on that if apart from 8 to 10 hours you'd like it to be a little bit different. Alrighty. Animete Hein, hello to you. Oh, here's English Rose. How often do you think that dreams are past life memories? All right, well, I would start by saying, because I like to feel my way into the answers to the questions sometimes, is that I think a dream can either be a memory of the past, so that would be in this lifetime or in a previous lifetime. I think the other thing a dream can be, and most often in my experience, a dream is a metaphor. So it's like an artistic representation of some issue that your subconscious mind is desperately trying to communicate to you. But we're taught to receive and communicate in this conscious, logical, rational way. And so when the communication comes to us in an artistic way, it's almost like somebody who speaks Chinese trying to speak to somebody who speaks Swedish. It just misses. So I said that I think that the metaphorical artistic is the most common, at least in my limited experience over the last 15 years with my clients. But yes, sometimes it can be an actual memory, present life and past life. So how often? I guess it would probably depend on the person and what they're going through in that life, what they're going through at that point in their life, and what their subconscious mind is trying to bring to their attention. But I would say probably a much smaller percentage than the metaphorical one. If you forced me to give a percentage, I don't know, maybe less than 5% is what my, but that's a blanket statement that, you know, it might be different for different people. But I would say, yeah, less than 5%. Okay. Good to see you, English Rose. Here is Frankie, not Frankie. Frankie, not Frankie. Sue says, I notice that the only time I feel a block is when I try to connect with my spirit guide. Not when I'm doing a PLR though. That's really interesting. Okay, so we would have to figure out why are you able to do a past life regression, but you're not able to meet with your spirit guide? Is there some kind of conflict between you and your guide? The most common conflict, the first thing that I would lean towards based upon my experience is that there may be some part of you that is ashamed. And your guide is like this wise and loving teacher who knows you inside and out. And like a coach or a parent or a grandparent or someone else that you really respect and believe in, if there's part of you that believes you're not where you should be, or you did something you shouldn't have done either in this life or in a past lifetime, or you're not on your path for this life, there could be part of you that's like, I don't even want to put myself there. You know, again, not consciously, subconsciously. And so what I would suggest to you is, you know, use the pendulum. And for those of you who don't know about this, there's a video on my channel. It teaches you how to use a pendulum, which is an idiomotor tool. It gives you a yes, a no, and a maybe answer, helps you understand what's going on in your subconscious mind. So use the pendulum to ascertain whether the block you have for meeting with your spirit guide has to do with shame or guilt. If it's not that, maybe part of you is upset with your spirit guide. Maybe you're angry with the guide, and maybe that's the reason that part of you doesn't want to meet with the guide. But there is a reason, and you can definitely figure that out. So if you walk down that path and you're willing, let us know. Let us know what happened, or let me know. If you have any questions, any further questions on this, let me know, because we can figure this one out. So thanks for asking. All right. Here is Estelle. Hello, Estelle. What does seeing a past life feel like? Is it like memories from this life or like daydreaming? I missed you while you were gone. Thank you. I missed you too. I missed all of you. Thank you so much for that. That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So it is kind of like memories from your present life. And like memories from your present life, it can be something that is super vague. You know, if I asked you what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago on Tuesday morning, you might not know at all, or you might have a vague memory about it. But if you were, you know, God forbid, in a car accident that was serious 10 years ago, you'd probably remember every little detail of that. It's kind of the same with past lifetimes. And it can change from regression to regression, and it can change even inside of the regression. But in general, and it can change by person. So people tend to have a lead, a neuro-linguistic programming calls it a representational system. And if you think of the letters V, A, K, like VAK, V-A-K, it stands for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And in general, a person, me, you, everyone else, has a lead representational system. So a person might be lead representational visual, or auditory or kinesthetic. It doesn't mean that an auditory person doesn't see things or doesn't feel things. Of course they do. It just means that's their default. That's what they lean towards. So people who are, say, a default kinesthetic feeling, they tend to process information more slowly, and they tend to feel things more than they see or hear them. They, in general, might have a different kind of past life regression experience than a visual person, than an auditory person. But again, it doesn't mean that the kinesthetic or auditory person can't see things in a past life regression, because they can. So if I use myself as an example, I am primarily lead auditory, right? So I tend to hear things more clearly when I'm doing a past life regression. Sometimes, and I often see things that are kind of hazy, but within that haze, sometimes they will pop out into this real significant detail. The important thing when you're doing a regression is to allow it to be whatever it wants to be, because it's coming to you in a way that's important for you, in a way that is designed for you. And unfortunately, because of the society in which we live and that it's so visually oriented, people, I think, have a default belief that they're supposed to see their past life and they're supposed to see it like a movie. And that's just not how it always happens. And what you hear in your mind's ear and what you feel inside is just as important, if not more important, than what you see. So, you know, I wish it were a simpler answer. Just say, oh yeah, it's like watching a movie. But it's not. It can be all of these different things at different times for different people. And it's most important to just allow it to come in the way it wants to come. So the most recent regression that I did was one that things were, it's like if you were watching a movie and the brightness in the film was turned down by about 50 to 60%. So you can make out what's going on, but it's not super fine detail. But I could hear things, could hear the sounds of a battle, like a medieval battle, like swords clanging and horse hooves and people screaming and shouting and so forth. And at a certain point in that regression, I encountered my family from that life, wife and 3 little children. And sitting in my chair in my office, I immediately burst into tears. Kinesthetic, that emotional feeling just washed over me, which I think is the most powerful indication that something very, very significant is occurring. Because when I saw them in my mind's eye, I didn't say, oh, that's, you know, this person from this life and this is this person from that. It was none of that. You know, my conscious mind didn't have a recognition of them, but some part of me certainly did, because I exploded into tears just upon seeing them, not seeing them within a particular context even. So I hope that long-winded answer actually helps. If it doesn't, feel free to ask a follow-up. Okay. Here is Leslie King. Leslie King says, I've tried regression tapes, but always fall asleep. Any time of day makes no difference. Sitting up, lying down. So I guess my first question to you would be, are you sleep deprived? You know, do you sleep 7 to 10 hours a night? Every night? Are you basically running on less than 8 hours of sleep every day? Because most people are. Most people are. And maybe what's happening is that when you do the hypnosis regression tapes, it is giving your body an opportunity to rest, and the need for your body to rest is greater than the need to go into the past life? That would be the first thing that I would ask. If you are totally rested, you're sleeping fine every night, and you're not like a narcoleptic, because that would be the other end of the extreme, that you have a sleeping sickness. So if those two things are out of the question, then the only other suggestion I would have for you is to not only sit up at a time of day, like the morning, which you've already tried, but to sit in like a straight back chair. Sit in a chair that's not super comfortable. And you could open your eyes if you wanted to. Every so often you could just open your eyes for a moment and then close your eyes again. You could do that and see if that helps you. But the first thing that I would want to know is, what is your sleep schedule like? Because it may be that your body and your mind really, really needs to sleep. And this is an opportunity for it to grab, this sleep. It's like if you were starving, there were food over there, and you're supposed to be, taking a test. Your temptation to grab that food and eat it if you were starving would be overwhelming. All right, good luck. Let's see, Heather Marney, hello. Hello to you. Here is Cynthia. Cynthia Rock. When I dream of speaking in a different language. Could it be from my past life? Yes, absolutely. So apparently there is a term that you might be interested in called Xenoglossy, and it's spelled with an X, Xenoglosy, Xenoglossy. And this is something that the psychologist Brian Weiss, who's very famous from writing books about past life regression, has referred to, is the ability of a person in hypnosis to speak a language that they otherwise were not able to speak. So it could be that, yes, you brought in with you a memory of a language that you spoke in another lifetime. And according to Brian Weiss, this is called Xenoglossy. So yeah, very cool. Let us know if you figure out more about this. Here is... Frankie, not Frankie, is saying to Leslie, what about caffeine? Is caffeine causing you to, I guess she's saying, if you use caffeine, would that keep you awake? And maybe you're already a caffeine user, and that's part of the reason that you're having trouble sleeping at night. So who knows if caffeine is part of this picture, but it's an interesting point. So thanks for raising that, Frankie. Nicole P, good to see you. Here's English Rose. I always have had a fascination with the Titanic sinking and feel really emotional about it. I've often wondered if it's to do with a past life. It could easily have to do with a past life. And it doesn't even mean you'd have to have been on the Titanic. For all of the lives that were lost and all of the people that were directly affected by that, they had obviously an extended group of family and friends. And at a time when communication wasn't anywhere close to what it is now, it really was, I think, one of those tragedies that got a microscope focused upon it in a way that really captured the emotions and the imaginations and so forth of the people of the English-speaking world. It became bigger than I hate to say your average shipwreck or your average calamity, but in some ways it did. And I don't know exactly what it was about that, whether it was the maiden voyage thing, this ship can't sink, or how it was covered by the newspapers of the time, but it certainly impacted people greatly. Maybe, who knows, maybe it impacted people in, I think it was what, 1911 or something. Maybe it impacted people, or 1912. Maybe it impacted people in 1912 around the world the way 9/11 impacted people around the world 20 years ago. That's very possible. So if you had lived at that time, if you were alive in 1912, you would have heard about it. And it may have moved you, even if you weren't on the ship yourself or you didn't know someone on the ship. And that might be what is drawing you to it. So any one of those things would be possibilities. So Leslie is saying caffeine doesn't help. Here is Nicole P. is saying, on that note, other than Peter's teachings and using the pendulum, working on my chakras has definitely helped me with blocks. Maybe it can help someone else too. Okay, so Nicole, if you wanna just post in there, if you have a link to guide people to something that would help them with their chakras. I'm assuming what you're talking about is like clearing a chakra or activating a chakra. If it's one of those things or something else and you have a link you want to direct people to, please feel free to do that. Here's Rosa. Hello, Rosa. Hello, everyone. After a few days, would we remain stuck in blocked energies if we don't heal our past lives? Will past lives come up to find us, to help us awaken and grow? Yes. Yes. So you could imagine if we were just talking about this lifetime, a person who has PTSD, right? They suffered some kind of a trauma earlier in their present life. I think we could confidently say for most of those people, if not all of them, that until and unless that trauma that created the PTSD is healed at its root, at its core, that they will continue to deal with it in this lifetime in a variety of different ways. I would say the same thing for past life, that if you suffer a trauma in a past life and it's not healed, that can degrade or hold you back in your present life in the same way as if that trauma had happened in your present life. And that's one of the things I think that really vexes modern ways of looking at the things that can hold us back, because we're saying basically, no, you just live in this little box. Your conception was your inception. You didn't exist before that. And if that's the mindset and something happened earlier, then you're just going to be managing the symptoms of it. So yeah, I believe that's true. And thanks for asking, Rosa. Good to see you. Here is Susanna. Hello, Susanna. I seem to see past lives when after a deep meditation, I ask, what's my first memory of this certain person? And there I am in some of my various past lives seeing that certain person. So cool. It really is cool. It really is cool. And I think that your comment shows something that I believe to be true, and that is we all have everything we need. We all have the internal mechanisms. We all have the internal capabilities and tools and abilities to access our past lives, to access our spirit guides and our spirit council and our soul groups and our ascended masters. We have the ability to literally, we have the ability to heal the past. And it makes sense to me that a creator wouldn't send us into this world without those tools, without those abilities to heal our lives. And you know, your comment is a perfect example of that. Your tool is meditation, and there's nobody there. You're not. I mean, it's not good or bad if you have somebody there. We all find different ways of resolving things, and that's a perfect illustration, I think, that we all have the ability to do this. So fantastic. I just wanted to quickly hit a couple of the bullet points that I had in the promo, just in case we otherwise wouldn't get to them. And that is there any danger to doing a past life regression? Sometimes people will put a comment on my YouTube channel, Blue Sky Hypnosis, asking is this safe to do this? And I always write back and I say, what are you frightened of? And so sometimes people will say, well, I'm frightened that I'll get stuck. So that's more of a hypnosis question, which is, can I get stuck in hypnosis? And the quick answer to that is no, you can't get stuck in hypnosis. The most dramatic thing that could happen is that you would actually fall asleep, like Leslie was falling asleep, and then you would just wake up normally. You know, could you become emotional doing past life regression? Absolutely. I described earlier in this broadcast seeing my wife and 3 little children from an earlier lifetime and literally like exploding with emotion, these racking sobs. But I don't think of that as dangerous. Can it change your who you are essentially? I don't think so. It's certainly not in a negative way. If anything, it's going to help you relieve some of the burden you've been carrying around with you. So if there's anyone else that has any other questions about anything that would fall into that heading of is past life regression dangerous, please feel free to put it in the comments section. And if I can get to it, I will definitely answer it. We talked a little bit about why a person couldn't access a past lifetime, so that's cool. We talked about the fear, the disbelief, and about a spirit attachment. And we talked about our present troubles. Like if you're having consistent troubles with a relationship, like you keep getting dumped over and over and over and over and over again, or you're having problems with finances that just seem to keep plaguing you over and over and over again, or even sometimes physiological things. Could those have an origin in a past lifetime? And the answer is yes, they could. And clearing that out of the way has helped a lot of people in the past. And then I guess what made me think about this is, can I change the past? That was another question I had in those bullet points. And my answer is yes, you can change the past. Contrary to what lots of well-meaning people say, which is just forget about that thing that happened. There's nothing that you can do about it. You just have to move forward. Very well-meaning, but I don't actually think that's true. And what I would say to get more specific on this is, while you can't change the actual things that occurred in the past, you can change your relationship to them. And that's the essence of the work that I do here with clients. Because when you change your relationship to something that happened in the past, the way you feel about it, the way it affects your body, the way it affects your emotions can change 180 degrees. So my standard answer is, you can't change the actual thing that happened in the past, but you can change your relationship to it. And when you do, that changes everything. So in that sense, you can change the past. All right. There's Cindy Thomas. Shout out to you. And you must be like in Australia or something, because saying good morning, that's cool. Here is Nicole P. Estelle, I did a couple of past life regressions with Peter's videos. They all felt like I was literally there. I was the person in the past life. The emotions were as real as they are now in this life. Yeah, Nicole, I couldn't say it any better. And that is absolutely something, as you've experienced, that I've felt that way too. But there are times when I have felt, and clients do, a little bit more distance from the past life. They don't feel like they're literally there sometimes. Sometimes they feel like they're observing it. And sometimes that's done for really good reasons, which is if the past life is too traumatic to actually be in the body while it's being burned alive at the stake, then it may be presented to you where you're in the third person looking down on that incident so that you're not feeling all of those feelings. And part of my job when I work with people is to help them with those transitions. So if they're on the outside looking in, and it's more powerful for them to be first person, we move them first person. If they're first person and it's getting a little hairy and they don't need to be there, we move them out to third person. So yeah, that is absolutely something that I have experienced, that kind of feeling like I was literally there. Alexandra was talking about an affinity that she had for Egypt. And in one of my early past life regressions, probably one of the most vivid ones, I felt like I was literally there, exactly like you're saying right now, Nicole, where I could see this white cotton robe with this impossibly fine weave in the robe, and I could see my skin and how it was darker than it is now, and thinner. Excuse me. And there was a pyramid right in front of me, and there were torches burning, and it felt like I felt like I'm there. So I know what you're saying. And just so other people understand, it's a whole range. It's from that all the way back to kind of observing it from the background where things can be dim, or you can be hearing things. And again, it's really important that no matter what you're presented with, that you just go with it and don't try to say, it's not what Peter said it was or Nicole said it was, and so I'm just going to stop it. It's being presented to you in a very personalized way. if you will, a very individualized way, and therefore it's important to receive it in that way. That's how you'll get the most out of it. So cool. Thanks, Nicole. Okay, and so here's Kelly kind of asking the same question, which is, excuse me, can anything bad or dangerous come from doing a past life regression? I don't think so. You would have to tell me what you had in mind about what could be bad or dangerous, but I don't think so. Where I think something toxic happens is when you have toxic poisonous material, whether it's physical, like heavy metals or pesticides, or it's old emotional trauma that's kind of buried inside of your body or buried inside of your psyche, that it leaks out and it causes other problems. And that although it can be painful when you're detoxing from it, right? Maybe spending a lot of time in the bathroom if you're doing a physical detox. Even vomiting is a form of detox, and that's not pleasant. But it's much better than leaving all that alcohol in your stomach or whatever was causing it. And I think it's the same thing with old emotional trauma. Could it cause you to become frightened? Could it cause you to burst out into tears, as I did in the most recent past life regression that I did? Yeah, absolutely. But it also kind of purges you, and you often feel much lighter when that's all over. So I hope that's a satisfactory answer, but thank you for asking. And if you have any follow-ups to that, Kelly, please feel free. Okay, here's Joanna is saying, off topic. In your 3-hour video, Track Love Sleep Hypnosis, sometimes I can hear your voice, others I cannot. Why? So I do several types of tracks on my channel. One you could think of as audible, and the other one subliminal. And sometimes I combine these things where I'll start audible and then I'll go subliminal. What does subliminal means? Sub meaning underneath your liminal space, your ability to perceive it. So it could be subvisual or it could be sub-audible. I generally work with sub-audible. What we're doing with sub-audible is we're bypassing your conscious mind, which incidentally is what hypnosis is used for. So when a person goes from a beta brainwave, that's where you are in a sort of conscious waking state, and you move into an alpha, theta, or delta brainwave, you are now, anything you're taking in is bypassing your conscious mind, and it's going directly into your subconscious mind. Let me give you an example of this. If you were to see a staged hypnosis show, and it's happening in the summertime, and it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit and high humidity, it's really, really hot, and a subject is brought up onto the stage by a hypnotist in front of a large audience of people. That subject is hypnotized. What's happened is that their critical part of their mind, the part of their mind that says, that's not possible, that can't happen, today's Tuesday, it's not Friday, I'm 38 years old, I'm not 69 years old, blah, 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 blah. That part of the mind is like, it just checks out. And now there's this open pathway into the subconscious mind that controls the body. So the hypnotist says to this subject, this hypnotized subject, it's 22 degrees Fahrenheit outside, not 95, and you're freezing cold. That person, bing, accepts the suggestion because it's bypassed the other part of their mind. It's gone into the subconscious. Subconscious says, oh my God, it's 22 degrees. And the person starts shivering and you can see goosebumps on their skin. So let me see, where was I going with that? So that is a way of bypassing. Hypnosis is a way of bypassing that part of your mind called the critical factor or the critical faculty. Subliminal does the same thing. The conscious mind can't really object to it because it can't really hear it. Subconscious mind can. It perceives orders of magnitude more data and information from outside of your body through your 5 physical senses at least, and also from inside of your body simultaneously, and can process all of this. And it can perceive the voice, the subaudible voice that your conscious mind cannot perceive. Are you following me? So it's a really powerful tool that is used to help people make positive changes. But some people are wary of subaudibles. They don't want subaudibles. Or for some people, for whatever reason, they say they don't work as well for them. So I have the audible version. And then in a lot of tracks, I'll start audible and then go subliminal. Hopefully that answers your question. Thanks for asking. Here's Josh Gruber saying, guides communicate in so many ways. Ask for a symbol or signal and you'll know it when it happens. It's pretty cool. That's really cool. Thanks for making that comment. Let's see, Wow, Joanna is saying, last Friday I had a strong awakening, so strong that my pendulum broke, the stone and the metal part. That's pretty tantalizing. That sounds really, really cool. I'd like to hear more about that. Thanks for sharing. And here is Anne Bouchard saying, in Denise Linn's book, Out of Past Lives, she says that those things you feel drawn to in your life are a reflection of your past life. And as I said before, I certainly don't disagree with that. I don't know if I would say that's 100% of the time, but because I don't know that I have any way of knowing that. I would say that it could be something to do with your family of origin, either DNA, or it could have to do with things that maybe you heard even in the womb. That's possible. But I certainly agree with what Denise Linn is saying and what we've said before, that your affinity for certain time periods, for professions, for culture, other forms of artwork, for geographic locations, all of those could absolutely be an indication of a past life that you've lived. That's certainly possible. And another thing that I just thought of, what if you were a historian who lived, 150 years ago? Could you have an affinity for Egypt, even if you never lived in Egypt, but you studied Egypt, intensely as a historian 100, 150 years ago? I would say the answer to that is yes as well. So there are all of these different ways that you could have a connection. Very cool. All right. Here's Bob Galgansky. Hey, Bob. Good to see you. Could the anxiety vertigo I always experience while on a boat of any size, or simply standing on a pier, stem from a traumatic event in a past life? Yes. 100%, absolutely yes. And I would like to share something from my own life that sounds like it shares some similarities. So after I was diagnosed, and for those of you who don't know this, in 2003, on the same day, I was diagnosed with leukemia and with Lyme disease. And in the months that followed, I noticed that, and it had never happened before, that when I went into a Home Depot, when I went into Ace Hardware, or when I went into my basement where there were chemicals and paint, in cans, I would start feeling, I called it brain fog. It wasn't quite dizzy, but it was like I just drank one beer really fast. And it was really disconcerting. And it took me a couple of years, because I was trained in this work in 2006, to understand what was going on for me, which was my subconscious mind was trying to prevent me from being near those chemicals, because it associated them with this potentially deadly disease with which I was diagnosed. It drew the parallel between those two things. And that was its mechanism of preventing me from being proximate to those, to the paint and the chemicals and so forth. And so what I was able to do was I was able to convince my subconscious mind that in the presence of those things, I was safe. And at a certain point, my subconscious mind took down the defensive mechanism And then I was able to go into those places without having that experience. Now, it wasn't a straight line. So it took a while. It took a few weeks for it to start working. And then it was working, and then it started up again because I had stopped my own programming. So I went back to the programming, and then it went away again. And I kind of went back and forth for a while before I finally sort of overwhelmed, if you will, that defensive mechanism. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that yes, you suffered a trauma that involved a ship or the ocean or both in a past lifetime. Could your subconscious mind be creating this experience inside of you to prevent you from being on a boat or from being on a pier where the water is deeper? Absolutely, 100%. I've worked with people who've had similar dynamics going on, and we've been able to get to the root of it. So I would say, yeah, definitely. And you could use the pendulum to start walking down that path and figuring out, were you on a shipwreck? Did you drown? Did you fall off of a pier? Did you fall off of a boat? Did other people die? Were you responsible for their death? Like, all of these things could be related to a potential trauma that deals with this sort of vertigo thing. But if you're not feeling it, and you're not on a boat, and you're not feeling it, and you're not on a plane, for example, and you're not feeling it on dry land, that's really suspicious. That really would lead me in that direction, certainly until it was ruled out. So thanks for sharing that. All right, let's see where we are. All right, so what I want to do is I want to take a couple more questions for sure, because I really love this topic. But I also want to talk about what we're going to be discussing next week, make a quick pitch for that, because I hope you guys will come back for next week. And I have a little thing here. There we go. So next week, we're going to be talking about something that's kind of tangential, which is healing trauma, healing past trauma by using hypnosis. And one of those tools, one of the important tools with healing past trauma, is regression. So this could be, like we're talking about today, a trauma that has its roots in a past lifetime, and maybe you experienced it again in this life, or it could be something that happened for the first time in this life, and we use regression to the event in this life. There are also other techniques that we can use from neuro-linguistic programming and from other areas like trauma reversals and so forth. So we're going to be talking about how do you actually heal trauma using hypnosis. And I hope you guys will consider tuning in for that. All right, let's see what else we have here. So Rosa is just asking, are phobias related with past life experiences? That's really close to what Bob was asking. So Bob was saying, he gets this vertigo and dizziness when he's on a boat of any size or he's on a pier. So that's not that far off from an actual phobia. He's having, a physiological response, but people with phobias will have a physiological response. A person who's afraid to get on an airplane or speak in public can, start perspiring like crazy, or their mouth goes dry, or their heart starts beating rapidly, or their stomach gets cramped up in knots, or they have to run to the bathroom. So yes, a phobia, let me back up. I say nothing occurs in a vacuum. Everything has a cause. Everything every symptom of anything, the wind. Why is it windy outside? I don't know, it's just the way it is. No, it has to do with pressure systems, high and low pressure systems. That's what causes the wind. The wind is the symptom of something heating up or something cooling down, or both happening simultaneously. So the phobia, and this is just, again, take it all with a grain of salt, the phobia, I say, has an underlying cause. Something must have happened earlier to set that up. So absolutely. Could the phobia have been created in a past life? Absolutely, it could have. Thank you for asking. So here's Bubba Wallace guy saying, I want some. What if you're petrified to know? So I'm going to assume what you mean by this is you want you want to experience a past lifetime, but you're scared, so scared that you're using the word petrified of visiting that past life. So the first thing I would say is you don't have to, right? There's no one, least of all me, that would be saying, yeah, you need to do it. No, you don't have to do this. And maybe this is not the right time in your life to be considering this sort of thing. Maybe you wait a few years and see how you feel about it. Maybe you read some books on this topic. Maybe you talk to some people who've done this. Maybe you talk to a hypnotist who does this kind of work, right? All of these things can help you over time feel better about doing it. But always remember, no one is forcing you to do this, so you can take your time. All right? Hopefully that helps you. Just scrolling down here, see? Here is Alexandra Carrion. Will you ever offer in-person sessions at your office in the future? Until now, I've never explored any type of hypnosis, but feel I may benefit. So right now, I'm pretty much doing 100% sessions by Zoom. I started doing remote sessions using Zoom and FaceTime and so forth, and even the phone, about 4 or 5 years before everything got locked down, and found them to be way more effective than I thought that they would be. And at this point, after doing them exclusively for the last year, I know they're just as effective as being in the same room, which based on the way I would have been thinking, 15 years ago, it's surprising but true. So I continue to offer Zoom sessions by appointment to people literally all over the world, and they are super, super effective. So if that's something that you're interested in, that's definitely available, and you can learn about all the details. You can even book something. You can even book a free 20-minute call right on my website, which is blueskyhypnosis.com. So thanks for that, and maybe I'll be seeing you in the future. All right. Let's see here. Here is Joanna saying, Nicole P., I am changing my energies. Peter's videos are really helping me. I do his hypnosis, and I feel my life putting the wrong things out and letting the good things in. That's a great way of describing it. It's a great way of describing it. Here is Lenuse. That is a beautiful name, Lenuse Thorson. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably not. And if I'm not, I apologize. Hey, if you have a feeling that you have a past life from a specific era, can this be focused upon? So you get memories from this, not your imagination, in a hypnosis or whatever method. In other words, can you essentially program or choose to go to a specific past lifetime? You can. It doesn't mean, however, that your subconscious mind isn't going to try to make a U-turn and go to what it thinks is even more important for you. That can happen. But yes, you can focus on one. You can even use the pendulum saying, is it in my highest, did I live a past lifetime at this time? Is it in my highest and best interest to visit that lifetime? Because with the pendulum, you may get no. You may get it's more important to do something else first. And if it is, it's probably important to do that other thing and then come back to the first one. Now, you also mentioned something about imagination. So you've been taught, along with me and everyone else in our modern day culture, that your imagination is worthless. You've been told it's all in your head, it's just a dream, and it's only your imagination, or it's just your imagination. And all of these things are if you think about it, are totally denigrating what I say is your most significant power. It's not your physical strength. It's not your sense of smell. Any dog can blow you or me away in an instant. It's not your eyesight. Eagles can see much better than we can. It's not how fast you run. It's not how you're hearing. A human being, our physical senses are a joke, an absolute joke. But what we're most powerful at is imagining things that don't yet exist and bringing them into existence. Everything from a cell phone to a spear had to be imagined in somebody's mind before they could bring it into a physical existence. And yet it's commonly denigrated. So what happens is that people, when they're in a hypnotic state, what's happening? Images are coming in their mind. Things they're able to hear with their inner hearing. Things that they're able to feel either kinesthetically or emotionally. And they start to push those away saying, oh, I'm just making that up. That's just my imagination. And so they terminate it on themselves because they've been programmed to do that. So a huge part of being successful with this is accepting whatever comes in whatever way it comes, with the caveat that you can analyze it later. You know, when you're looking at a beautiful piece of art, if you're trying to consciously, analyze it while you're having the experience, you're going to ruin the experience. You're not going to feel any emotions, right? It's not going to take you anywhere. You're not going to be transformed by it. If when you're making love, you're trying to analyze everything that's happening, it's not going to be the same, right? And so a huge hurdle that I help my clients get over, some I need to work with more than others, is to push all that away. Just let that conscious mind sit over there on the bench with the caveat that it will be able to make any comment it wants once the film is over. People don't stand up in the movie theater halfway through the movie and say, what's going on? They didn't have that sword in 1812. I don't understand. Sit down. Wait for the end of the movie. So it's an impassioned plea to allow your imagination to flow, because that's the most important, powerful part of you. You can build muscle mass using your imagination. The placebo effect proves that people can have all of these powerful physiological effects, and the substance that they're taking in is inert. That the more expensive pill is more effective than the less expensive pill. The multicolored pill is more effective than the single colored pill. It goes on and on. So let me pull this up again. So yes, you can direct yourself to a particular past life, but your subconscious mind may want to go somewhere else first. And you can use the pendulum to sort of suss this out before you step into the what am I trying to say? Before you can step into the pool, if you will, to go swimming, you can figure all of this out. And then that piece about the imagination, accept whatever's coming and then decide after it's over what it all means to you. And it's the emotion that I say is going to tell you the truth, right? You don't know you love someone because of their resume. You know you love them because of how you feel. It's the emotion that tells you the truth. So hopefully this ramble has made some sense. And if it hasn't, please feel free to ask another question here on the chat or send an email or whatever, because it's really good points you're making, and thank you for making them. All right. Just going on here. Oh, here's Joanna. Joanna, so this is back on the foreign language thing. So Joanna says, I sleep and I guess dream in Spanish and English. Even during the day, my thoughts are in these languages. And I am Portuguese. So I'm going to assume that you haven't learned Spanish and you haven't learned English, but these come to you in dreams or even sort of daydreaming. If that's the case, yeah, let me know. That's really interesting. Just going down here. Here is Frankie, not Frankie. Do you teach classes like Zoom or anything, or QAs like this live video right now? So this is a really interesting question. I'm in the process of building courses, which is kind of like teaching a class on, so like a past life regression course that's all built together that includes various elements. So yeah, I guess I'm sort of moving in that direction, and these Friday lives, I do them every Friday, except when I take little breaks like the last 2 weeks when I went to Mexico. I take pretty much every single Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern time, and we pick a topic and we kind of focus on it, and then maybe 1 out of every 4 weeks we do an open roundtable where you can just ask any questions you want on the live. So yeah, you can keep coming back looking for this live every Friday at 5, except when I happen to take a vacation. So yes, and then the courses are something that I'm going to be building. And in fact, when I was on vacation, I was spending some time kind of figuring out exactly how I was going to do that. And past life regression is definitely going to be one of those courses that I'm putting together. But teaching an actual class, not so much right now, but that's also something that I'm definitely open to because I love doing it. But thanks for asking. All right, where are we here? I'll take 1 or 2 more. Scrolling down here. Okay, so here's Estelle saying, do you think past life regression by yourself with a video is as effective as doing it with a professional? So I'm going to give you a generic answer, which is, the generic answer is no. Because with a generic video, which when I make a video, I can't make it for a single person. I'm making it for, a mass audience. So I have to make it with that in mind. And I'm not getting any feedback from the person, right? So the person's not saying to me, oh, I'm walking down this dark tunnel, or I'm in the dark and I don't see anything. Like that happens sometimes. I can't now shift and deal with what I'm getting from this person, because that person could be in a dungeon. They could be buried alive. They could be in a house at night and the power's gone out, or who knows. But I can't deal with them. It's almost like I kind of have to let them go in a sense, and hopefully they can catch up to wherever we are, in going on in this video. And another person might say, something dramatic just happens. Well, we might want to focus more attention in a live session on what just happened there. And that might lead us in a whole different direction than me going, okay, so I'm taking the person here, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here, because I'm not getting any feedback. So while doing, and I wouldn't make them if they weren't valuable, but while doing them in a video form can be really, really important. People can have amazing experiences with that. And that's, as I say, why I do them. It's not the same as doing it in a live with somebody who can adapt to what you're feeding back. Because it's actually, even though the person's in hypnosis, they're telling me what's happening. They're telling me the experience that's occurring. And based on that, I'm then saying, okay, so let's go over here. Let's spend some more time over there. Ask this question. What's happening now? Does that feeling you're having of fear in your chest feel like it feels when you're up on a stage and you're doing public speaking and you're feeling fear? And the person's like, yeah. No. So, and when that happens, we can actually sometimes do some healing right in that moment. Or when we're done with the regression, we can move right back into being with their spirit guide and work through healing what just occurred over there. Whereas when I create the tracks, as I said, it has to be done in more of this, it's only a one-way communication. I'm not hearing anything back from these people. So I hope that answer made sense. If it didn't, please ask a follow-up. Okay, so here's Nicole, and she's saying, Estelle, honestly, Peter's video is so intimate that I was in such a deep past life regression with it. There's no way doing it in person would be different. It was insanely real. I woke up drenched in my tears. Yeah, they can be extremely powerful, and I'm not saying that it has no value. It absolutely does. And depending on the person and the time they do it and where they're going, it can have enormous value to them. But it can never be personalized. And so for that reason, I would say that the kind of one-on-one just has more aspects that you can bring to it. And there's probably more healing that you can bring to it as well. But compared to doing something in the privacy of your own home that is totally free, I mean, that's a huge advantage too. So I'm glad that that Nicole gave that other perspective. Here is private. Hello, can past life regression heal OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder? Many good wishes from Germany. So if the reason that the person has OCD, the original trauma, let's say, that created that was something that was created for the first time in a past lifetime, could that help OCD? I would say so. Yeah. I mean, is it a guarantee? No. None of these things ever are guarantees. But as I said before, in my opinion, nothing occurs in a vacuum. Every symptom, everything that you see, like the wind, has a root cause. And in my way of thinking, I'm always wanting to deal with the root cause. And if the root cause is something that occurred in a past lifetime and we resolve it, it could easily diminish the symptoms or maybe even eliminate them altogether. Sometimes there's multiple things that are causing that, right? And so we have to hit it from a variety of fronts. But that's what I'm always looking at. And past life, it could be something that occurred in a past life. Absolutely. All righty. Oh, so this is pretty cool too. Nicole is saying, not to scare anyone. I dealt with a trauma there that relates to this life. But it helped me understand my present life completely. It all made sense. It gave me some great clarity and closure. Absolutely. I mean, we as human beings, we tend to run patterns. And a trauma in this life could be, it isn't always yes, but it could be something that was actually created in an earlier lifetime. And so, as Nicole is saying, by doing past life regression, you can often bring this immense understanding and, as she said, clarity into relationships you have in this life, your personality, your strengths, your weaknesses, your fears, your anxieties, or other types of patterns that you've been running in this life. And that can bring so much healing and so much relief. So I want to thank all of you so much for participating today in this Friday Live at 5. I've really enjoyed this. It's been an awesome one to come back from vacation to. You guys are awesome. I love seeing the familiar names. I love seeing the people that are here for perhaps the first time. And I hope you all will consider coming back next Friday Live at 5 for Healing Trauma with Hypnosis. A part of that, we're going to be talking about past lives too, because the trauma could be something from past life, or it could be, as we just talked about with Nicole, a pattern that's been going on for more than just this present lifetime. So thanks again. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and hope to see you next Friday Live at 5. Take care.